The crystal vase shattered against the marble floor and 6-year-old Minji didn't even flinch. Kendra Washington watched from the hallway, her hands gripping the laundry basket so tightly her knuckles ached. This was the 3rd vase this week. The 4th nanny in 2 months. And the little girl sitting cross-legged in the wreckage, staring at nothing, looked more like a ghost than a child. "I'm done," the nanny, Rachel or Rebecca, Kendra could never remember, shrieked as she stormed past. "That child is disturbed. She doesn't speak, she doesn't cry, she just stares. And when she does react, she gestured wildly at the broken glass. I didn't sign up for this." The woman's heels clicked down the marble staircase, her complaints echoing through the mansion until the front door slammed with finality. Silence descended. Kendra set down the laundry basket and approached slowly. Minji hadn't moved. Didn't even seem to register that her nanny had left. The little girl wore an expensive white dress. Always white, always pristine, always wrong for a child, and her dark hair was pulled into 2 perfect braids. But her eyes. God, her eyes were empty. "Hey, sweetheart," Kendra said softly, crouching at the edge of the glass. "Let's get you away from this mess, okay?" No response. Kendra had been working as a maid in the Kim estate for exactly 3 weeks. Long enough to know that Minji hadn't spoken since her mother's death 8 months ago. Long enough to know that the child's father, the terrifyingly beautiful, dangerously powerful Dae-young Kim, was drowning in grief and guilt and had no idea how to reach his daughter. Long enough to know that everyone who tried to help Minji eventually gave up. But Kendra Washington didn't give up on children. Ever. She reached out slowly, telegraphing her movements. "I'm going to pick you up now, baby girl. We'll go somewhere safe, away from all this glass." She lifted Minji carefully, and for the first time the child didn't resist. She didn't cling either, just allowed herself to be carried, weightless and passive like a doll. Kendra carried her to the library, the quietest room in the house, and settled into one of the oversized armchairs. She didn't try to make Minji sit properly, just let her curl however she wanted. Then Kendra did what she'd done every evening since arriving. She pulled out her phone and pressed play. Nina Simone's voice filled the library. "Birds flying high, you know how I feel." And for the first time in 3 weeks, Minji's eyes focused. She turned her head slowly, looking at Kendra's face as if seeing her for the first time. Kendra kept singing along softly, her rich contralto blending with Nina's voice. "Sun in the sky, you know how I feel." Minji's small hand reached out and touched Kendra's throat, feeling the vibrations. "Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel." The little girl's eyes filled with tears. And Kendra kept singing. Character introductions. 3 months earlier, Kendra had learned to recognize desperation in a job posting. Live-in housekeeper needed. Private estate. Room and board included. Salary negotiable for the right candidate. Discretion essential. She'd seen dozens like it over the years. Wealthy families looking for someone to clean up their messes, literal and metaphorical. Usually she passed them by. But her grandmother's dialysis treatments were draining her savings faster than she could replenish them, and Nana Jean deserved better than the county clinic. So Kendra had put on her best interview outfit, a modest navy dress that Nana Jean had hemmed for her, and taken 2 buses to the address in northwest Portland. The Kim estate wasn't just a house. It was a statement. Modern architecture blended with traditional Korean design elements. Stone and glass, and would form something that should have felt cold but instead radiated controlled elegance. The grounds were immaculate. The security was visible but discreet. And the woman who answered the door looked like she could kill you with a glance. Kendra Washington? The woman was Korean, 50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled into an elegant twist. "I am Mrs. Song, the estate manager. Follow me." No pleasantries. No small talk. They walked through halls that felt more like an art gallery than a home. Every surface gleamed. Every painting was worth more than Kendra's entire life. And every room they passed was empty of the thing that should have mattered most. Life. Mrs. Song led her to an office where a man sat behind a desk, his back to the door, speaking rapid Korean into his phone. Even from behind, Dae-young Kim was intimidating. Broad shoulders in a perfectly tailored black suit. Dark hair styled with precision. An aura of absolute authority that made the very air feel heavier. He finished his call and turned. Kendra forgot how to breathe. Daeyoung Kim was 32 years old and looked like something carved from marble by an artist who understood both beauty and cruelty. Sharp cheekbones. A jaw that could cut glass. Eyes so dark they were almost black, and currently assessing her with the cold calculation of someone who'd learned to see through people's facades. But it was the exhaustion beneath the control that caught Kendra's attention. The grief he was trying so hard to hide. "Miss Washington," he said, his English perfect but accented. "Mrs. Song tells me you have experience with difficult households." "I've worked for families going through transitions," Kendra replied carefully. "Divorce, illness, loss. Times when normal routine falls apart and everyone needs extra support. And you don't scare easily." It wasn't a question, but Kendra answered anyway. "No, sir. I don't." His eyes narrowed slightly. "Why do you need this position?" Most employers didn't ask that. They preferred not to know. But Kendra had learned that honesty served her better than performance. "My grandmother raised me after my parents died. She's on dialysis now. The treatments are expensive, and I need a position that offers stability and flexibility." "You're honest." He sounded almost surprised. "Lying wastes everyone's time." The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. "The position requires living on the estate full-time," he said. "You would have Sundays off, but otherwise I need someone here. Someone reliable. Someone who won't run when things get difficult." "Things are already difficult," Kendra observed. "Otherwise you wouldn't need me." This time he did smile, small and sharp. "You're perceptive." "I pay attention." He stood, and Kendra realized he was even taller than she'd thought. At least 6'2", maybe more. He moved around the desk with the fluid grace of someone who'd trained in something, martial arts maybe, or dance. "My daughter is 6 years old," he said quietly. "Her mother died 8 months ago. Since then Minji has not spoken. Not to me, not to therapists, not to anyone. He barely eats. She doesn't play. The nannies I hire last week's at most because they can't handle a child who won't respond to them." His jaw tightened. "I need someone who won't give up on her. Someone who understands that silence isn't defiance or manipulation. It's survival." Kendra's heart clenched. She knew that kind of silence. She'd lived it herself at 7 years old when her parents died. "I won't give up on her," she said firmly. "But I need to be clear. I'm a housekeeper, not a therapist. I can provide stability, routine, presence. I can't fix what's broken." "Nothing is broken." His voice went sharp, protective. "She's grieving. Then I can sit with her grief without trying to rush it." Daeyoung studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded once. "The position is yours if you want it. Room and board plus 50,000 a year." Kendra's breath caught. That was double what she'd expected. "That's generous." "My daughter is worth more than money," he said simply. "But money is what I have to offer. If you can help her, if you can be the constant presence she needs right now, you'll earn every penny." "When do I start?" "Tomorrow." Kendra moved in the next day with 2 suitcases and a photo of Nana Jean. Her room was larger than her entire apartment. Private bathroom. Sitting area. Windows overlooking the garden. It was beautiful and lonely like everything else in this house. Mrs. Song showed her the layout. Kitchen, laundry, Minji's room, off-limit spaces. "Mr. Kim's private office is forbidden," Mrs. Song said firmly. "The East Wing is for business meetings. You do not enter without express permission. You do not ask questions about his work. Is that clear?" "Crystal clear." "And Miss Minji?" Mrs. Song's expression softened infinitesimally. "He's fragile. Be patient." "I will be." That first evening Kendra met Minji. The little girl was in her bedroom, a space that should have been cheerful with its soft pink walls and shelves full of toys. But Minji sat in the window seat staring out at the garden, and the room felt like a mausoleum. She wore a white dress. White Mary Jane's. Her hair in 2 perfect braids. Like she was dressed for a funeral every single day. "Hi Minji," Kendra said softly from the doorway. "My name is Kendra. I'm going to be working here helping take care of things. Is it okay if I come in?" No response. Kendra entered slowly, settled on the floor near, but not too close to, the window seat. And then she did what Nana Jean had done for her all those years ago. She started humming. No words. Just melody. Something soft and safe. Minji didn't turn. Didn't acknowledge her. but her shoulders relaxed. Just slightly. It was enough. Inciting incident. The routine developed over 3 weeks. Kendra woke at dawn, prepared breakfast that Minji rarely touched, laid out clothes that the nannies dressed Minji in, cleaned the house until it gleamed, and every evening she sat in Minji's doorway and sang. The nannies came and went. Rachel lasted 4 days. Jennifer made it to 6. The current one, Kendra honestly couldn't remember her name, was on day 3 and already showing signs of frustration. Daeung was rarely home. When he was, he moved through the house like a ghost himself, checking on Minji with eyes full of pain before disappearing into his office or out to mysterious meetings. Kendra learned not to ask questions. She also learned that the men who visited late at night, who spoke in low Korean and carried themselves with dangerous confidence, were not typical business associates. She learned that Daeyoung Kim's import-export company had layers she didn't want to examine too closely. She learned to keep her head down and her observations to herself. But she couldn't ignore Minji. The child was deteriorating. Getting thinner. More withdrawn. The nannies grew increasingly frustrated with her silence, her passivity, her occasional outbursts of destruction that came from nowhere. That night, the night the vase shattered, Kendra made a decision. After carrying Minji to the library and calming her with music, after the child finally fell asleep in her arms, Kendra carried her upstairs to her bedroom. She was settling Minji into bed when Daeyoung appeared in the doorway. He looked exhausted. His suit jacket was gone, tie loosened, and there was something in his expression, defeat maybe or despair, that made Kendra's chest ache. "Another nanny quit," he said quietly. "I know. I saw her leave. That makes 6. I'm sorry." He moved into the room looking down at his sleeping daughter. "I don't know what to do anymore. The therapists say to give her time. But she's fading away and I don't know how to reach her." Kendra stood, keeping her voice low. "She doesn't need you to fix her. She needs you to be with her." "I try. I sit with her. I read to her. She doesn't respond. Because you're trying too hard." Kendra moved to stand beside him. "You're her father. She can feel your desperation, your need for her to be okay. It's too much pressure for someone who's drowning." His jaw clenched. "So what do I do?" "Stop trying to reach her. Just exist in the same space. Let her see that you're okay existing in silence with her. That's what you do. Every night you sit outside her door and sing." "Why?" "Because music was the only thing that reached me when my parents died. My grandmother didn't try to make me talk or smile or pretend everything was fine. She just sat with me and sang. Eventually I started singing back." Daeyoung looked at her sharply. "You lost your parents. When I was 7. Car accident. I didn't speak for 3 months." Understanding flickered across his face. "You know what she's experiencing." "Not exactly. Everyone's grief is different. But I know what it's like to feel like the world ended and everyone expects you to keep living anyway." He was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. "The nannies can't handle her." "Then stop hiring nannies. She needs supervision." "She has supervision. She has you when you're home, Mrs. Song, during the day, and..." Kendra hesitated. And me. If you want." His eyes narrowed. "You're a housekeeper. I'm whatever she needs me to be." Something shifted in his expression. "Why would you do this? It's not in your job description." "Because that little girl deserves someone who won't give up on her." Kendra held his gaze. "And frankly, sir, you need help. Real help. Not people you're paying to perform care. Someone who actually gives a damn." She expected him to be offended. Instead he looked relieved. "If I asked you to take on Minji's care," he said slowly, "there would be risks." "What kind of risks?" "The kind that come with being part of my household." Kendra had suspected, but hearing him acknowledge it made her pulse quicken. "Your business isn't entirely legal." "No. And people who work for you become targets." "Sometimes." She should have been terrified. Should have walked away. But Minji's small face, so lost, so alone, was all she could see. "I'll do it," Kendra said. "On one condition." "Name it." "You stop treating her like she's broken. You stop looking at her like you've failed. Children feel that. They internalize it. If you want her to heal, you have to believe she can heal." Daeyoung's expression cracked just for a moment. Grief and guilt and desperate hope all warred across his features. I'll try, he whispered. That's all anyone can do. He looked at his daughter, then back at Kendra. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've got a long road ahead. As Kendra left the room, she felt Dae-young's eyes on her back. The intensity of his gaze made her skin tingle. What she didn't know was that Dae-young Kim was realizing something terrifying. For the first time since his wife's death, he wanted someone to stay. Not just for Minji. For himself. Building connection. The first breakthrough came 3 weeks after Kendra officially took over Minji's care. She'd established a routine. Gentle wake-ups with music, breakfast prepared together, even if Minji didn't eat. Quiet time in the garden, art projects in the afternoon, and evenings filled with stories and songs. Minji still didn't speak. But she'd started making eye contact. Started sitting closer during story time. Started eating small bites of food when Kendra ate with her. Progress measured in millimeters, but progress nonetheless. Kendra was in the kitchen preparing lunch. Japchae, because she'd learned that Minji responded better to Korean food. When Dae-young appeared. It was unusual. He was rarely home during the day. Mr. Kim, Kendra greeted him, continuing to slice vegetables. Is everything all right? I had a meeting cancel. He moved closer, watching her hands. You're making japchae. Minji ate 3 bites yesterday. I'm hoping for 4 today. His expression softened. She's eating more. A little. Still not enough, but we're getting there. He was quiet for a moment. Then, you're using gochugaru for the seasoning. Kendra glanced up, surprised. Mrs. Song showed me. She said Minji's mother used to make it this way. Slightly sweet, not too spicy. Something painful crossed his face. Haewon made it every Sunday. Kendra set down the knife. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. No. He shook his head. It's good. Minji needs those connections. Memories of her mother through food, through routine. He ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its usual perfect style. I can't cook. I've tried. Everything I make tastes wrong. Then I'll keep making it. Kendra returned to slicing. Tell me what else Haewon used to cook. I'll learn. Dae-young moved to stand beside her at the counter. He was close enough that she could smell his cologne, something woody and expensive, and feel the warmth radiating from his body. Why cook, he said quietly. Seaweed soup. She made it every birthday. Said it was tradition to honor mothers on their children's birthdays. Minji's birthday is coming up? Next month. She'll be 7. Kendra made a mental note. I'll learn to make mayakuk. What else? Over the next 20 minutes, Dae-young told her about his late wife's cooking. How Haewon had learned from her grandmother. How she'd adapted recipes for Minji's preferences. How Sunday dinners had been sacred family time. It was the most he'd ever spoken to Kendra. The most human he'd seemed. You loved her very much, Kendra said softly. I did. His voice roughened. She made everything lighter. Easier. This world I'm in, it's dark. Heavy. But Haewon could walk into a room and suddenly there was color again. Minji has that same light in her. It's just dimmed right now. Because I couldn't protect her mother. The words came out bitter. Because my enemies targeted the one person who mattered most. Kendra's hands stilled. Minji's mother was murdered. It wasn't a question. Dae-young didn't confirm or deny. But his silence was answer enough. The car accident wasn't an accident, Kendra continued, pieces falling into place. Someone went after her to hurt you. You should leave. Dae-young's voice went cold, defensive. If you know what's good for you, you should pack your things and go. Before you become a target too. Kendra turned to face him fully. Is Minji in danger right now? I've increased security. She's protected. That's not what I asked. His jaw clenched. There are always threats in my world. But I've made it clear what happens to people who target my family. After Haewon. He couldn't finish. No one will make that mistake again. Then I'm staying. You don't understand what you're saying. I understand perfectly. Kendra met his eyes. I understand that little girl upstairs needs someone who isn't afraid. Someone who won't run. Someone who sees her as more than a job or an obligation. And I understand that you're drowning in guilt and grief and you think everyone you care about is at risk. She stepped closer. But here's what you need to understand. I'm not fragile. I'm not naive. I grew up in East Portland. I know what danger looks like. And I'm choosing to stay because Minji deserves someone who fights for her. Dae-young stared at her, something shifting in his dark eyes. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. My grandmother says the same thing. Kendra smiled slightly. Usually when I'm doing both. Your grandmother knows you're working here? She knows I'm working for a wealthy family. She doesn't need to know more than that. And if something happened to you, if my enemies decided you matter enough to target, then you'd protect me. The same way you protect Minji. The same way you protected Haewon until... She stopped, realizing she'd gone too far. But instead of anger, Dae-young's expression crumpled. I didn't protect her. That's the point. I failed. You can't control everything. I should have. It's my job to control everything. Kendra reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away. When he didn't, she placed her hand over his where it gripped the counter. You're one person, she said gently. You can't prevent every terrible thing. You can only do your best to protect the people you love and keep living when the worst happens anyway. His hand turned under hers, fingers threading through hers. The touch sent electricity up her arm. You sound like you're speaking from experience. I watched my grandmother rebuild her life after losing her daughter, my mother. I watched her choose to keep going, to raise me, to find joy again even though her heart was broken. That's real strength. Not control. Survival and choosing to keep loving people even when loving them hurts. Dae-young's thumb brushed over her knuckles. How did you become so wise? I had a good teacher. Kendra squeezed his hand. And you have a good daughter who needs you to stop punishing yourself and start living again. I don't know how. Start small. Have lunch with us today. Let Minji see you eat. Let her see you're okay. He looked toward the doorway where Minji's room was down the hall. What if she doesn't want me there? Then we'll try again tomorrow. But I think she needs to see her father more than she needs another nanny. That lunch was the first time Dae-young had eaten a meal with his daughter in months. Kendra set 3 places at the kitchen table, somewhere warm and informal instead of the cold dining room. She served the japchae with rice and kimchi, and sat between Dae-young and Minji like a bridge. Minji stared at her plate. Dae-young stared at Minji. Kendra ate and hummed softly, creating a soundtrack of normalcy. After 5 minutes, Minji picked up her chopsticks. After 10 minutes, she took a bite. After 15 minutes, she'd eaten half her portion. Dae-young's eyes were wet. When Minji finally set down her chopsticks, she did something she hadn't done in 8 months. She looked directly at her father. And Dae-young looked back. No words. Just seeing each other. Kendra felt like she was witnessing something sacred. Jal myeojiosumnida, Dae-young said softly. I ate well. Minji's lips trembled. Then she stood, walked around the table and climbed into her father's lap. He wrapped his arms around her and buried his face in her hair, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Kendra quietly left the room, giving them privacy. She was in the garden when Dae-young found her an hour later. Thank you, he said simply. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. You gave me back my daughter today. Kendra shook her head. She was always there. You just needed permission to reach for her. He moved closer, and the air between them charged with something neither of them was ready to name. Kendra, he said, her name sounding different in his accent. Softer. More intimate. What you're doing for us. I need you to know that you're not just the help. You're... His phone rang. The moment shattered. He answered in Korean, his expression hardening. The conversation was brief and tense. When he hung up, the warmth was gone, replaced by the cold authority she'd seen that first day. I have to go, he said. Business. Will you be home for dinner? I don't know. There's a situation that requires my attention. Kendra watched him transform from vulnerable father to dangerous leader in seconds. Be safe. He paused, surprised. Why would you? Because Minji needs you. And... She stopped herself. And I'd hate to have to explain to her why you didn't come home. It wasn't what she'd meant to say. But it was safer than the truth, that she was starting to care about him. That somewhere between the midnight kitchen conversations and watching him love his daughter, she'd developed feelings that had nothing to do with employment. Dae-young studied her face. I'll come home. I promise. He left through the back gate where 2 men in dark suits waited by a black SUV. Kendra watched him go and wondered what kind of situation required 3 armed men. She also wondered when she'd started thinking of this house as home. Cross-cultural recognition. The language lessons started by accident. Kendra was reading to Minji one evening, a Korean children's book Mrs. Song had provided, when she stumbled over the pronunciation. Halmoni, she attempted, pointing to the word for grandmother. Minji's hand shot out, touching the page. It was the most direct engagement she'd shown with anything in weeks. Can you help me? Kendra asked. I want to say it right. Minji's lips moved. No sound came out, but Kendra could see her forming the word. Halmoni, Kendra tried again, watching Minji's mouth. This time the little girl nodded. It became their new routine. Kendra would read in English, then attempt Korean words. Minji would correct her with gestures, facial expressions, sometimes writing the romanization on paper. She still didn't speak, but she was communicating. And Kendra was learning. She started picking up phrases from Mrs. Song. Annyeonghaseyo. Good morning. Gamsahamnida. Thank you. Frangie. I love you. The last one she practiced alone, testing how the syllables felt in her mouth, imagining saying them to Minji when the little girl was ready to hear them. One evening, Daeyoung came home to find Kendra and Minji in the kitchen, making tteokbokki together. Eomma used to make this, Minji had written on her notepad earlier. It was the first time she'd referenced her mother directly. Kendra had immediately asked Mrs. Song for the recipe. Now, as she carefully arranged rice cakes in the pan, Daeyoung appeared in the doorway. Tteokbokki, he said, surprise in his voice. Minji's request, Kendra replied, then added carefully, Yuranun Junayorial Waihi Mandu Royo. We're making it for her. Daeyoung's eyes widened. You're learning Korean. Badly, Kendra admitted. But Minji's been teaching me. Sort of. He moved into the kitchen, looking between them. Minji, you've been helping Kendra learn? Minji nodded shyly. That's. His voice roughened. That's wonderful, tell. Daughter. He joined them at the stove, and together the 3 of them finished making the spicy rice cakes. When they sat down to eat, Daeyoung raised his glass of water. Fambi, he said. Cheers. Jeonbi, Kendra repeated. And Minji almost soundlessly mouthed the word along with them. It was the closest thing to speaking she'd done since her mother died. After Minji went to bed, Kendra found Daeyoung in his study. The door was open, an invitation she'd learned to recognize. You didn't have to learn Korean, he said without looking up from his papers. I wanted to. Minji's heritage is important. Her mother's language, her culture. She shouldn't lose that because I only speak English. He set down his pen. Most people wouldn't care. I'm not most people. Kendra moved into the room. Besides, Minji lights up when we practice. It's like I'm giving her permission to remember her mother without it being painful. Haewon would have liked you. The statement hung in the air between them. Tell me about her, Kendra said softly. Not just the cooking. Who was she? Daeyoung was quiet for a long moment. Then, she was an artist. Painted watercolors, mostly landscapes. She saw beauty in everything, even in me. There's beauty in you. His eyes met hers, sharp and intense. You see it. I see a father who loves his daughter enough to keep trying even when it hurts. I see a man carrying impossible weight and still showing up every day. That's beautiful. You see what you want to see. I see what's there. He stood, moving around the desk. Kendra, I need to tell you something. Her pulse quickened. Okay. My business. The people I work with, they're starting to notice you. Starting to ask questions about the woman who's living in my house, taking care of my daughter. Is that a problem? It could be. In my world, information is currency. And right now you're a mystery. Mysteries make people nervous. What do they think I am? Some think you're just the help. Others think. He stopped. Think what? Think you're more than that. Kendra's breath caught. Am I? The question escaped before she could stop it. Daeyoung moved closer. They were inches apart now. Close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. Close enough to feel the heat of his body. I don't know, he admitted. I don't know what you are or what you're becoming. All I know is that when I come home I look for you. When something good happens I want to tell you. When I'm drowning you're the one who pulls me up. Daeyoung. His name felt foreign and right on her tongue. I'm falling for you, he said quietly. And it terrifies me because everyone I love becomes a target. Haewon paid the price for my choices. I won't put you at risk the same way. Kendra's hand came up to cup his face. Then don't make choices that put me at risk. But don't push me away to protect me. Let me decide what risks I'm willing to take. You don't know what you're saying. Stop telling me what I know and don't know. Her voice firmed. I'm a grown woman. I've survived poverty, loss, and raising myself when my grandmother worked 3 jobs to keep us fed. I'm not some delicate thing that needs protecting from hard truths. No, he agreed, his hand covering hers on his face. You're fierce, strong, beautiful. And you're making it very hard for me to keep my distance. Then don't. The space between them evaporated. Daeyoung's mouth found hers in a kiss that was both desperate and reverent. His hands framed her face like she was precious, like she was breakable, even as she pressed against him to prove she wasn't. Kendra's fingers tangled in his hair, and she kissed him back with all the longing she'd been suppressing for weeks. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Daeyoung rested his forehead against hers. This is dangerous, he whispered. I know. My enemies will see you as leverage. Then we'll be careful. I don't know how to protect you and love you at the same time. Kendra pulled back enough to meet his eyes. You love me. He looked terrified and certain all at once. Yes. God help me, yes. Then start by trusting me to protect myself. And trust that loving me doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. He kissed her again, softer this time. A promise. I'll try, he murmured against her lips. That's all I ask. What neither of them knew was that upstairs, Minji had woken from a nightmare and padded downstairs looking for Kendra. She saw them through the open study door. Saw her father kiss the woman who sang to her every night. Saw them hold each other like people do in movies when they're in love. And for the first time since her mother died, Minji smiled. A real smile. Because maybe, just maybe, her family was growing instead of shrinking. The Eomma moment. The threat came 3 weeks later. Kendra was in the garden with Minji, practicing Korean vowel sounds, when Mrs. Song appeared with an expression Kendra had never seen. Fear. Mr. Kim needs you both inside. Now. Kendra's training kicked in immediately. She scooped Minji into her arms and followed Mrs. Song into the house, where armed men she'd never seen before were stationed at every entrance. Daeyoung met them in the main hall, and the look on his face made Kendra's blood run cold. Take Minji upstairs, he said tersely. Lock the door. Don't come out until I tell you. What's happening? Now, Kendra. She'd never heard that tone from him. Commanding. The voice of someone used to being obeyed without question. Kendra carried Minji upstairs, her mind racing. She locked them in Minji's room and pulled the child close. It's okay, baby, she murmured. Your daddy's handling things. We're safe. But Minji's body was rigid with fear. She'd seen this before. The sudden security. The armed men. The fear. She'd seen it the day her mother died. Kendra felt the little girl start to shake and immediately started singing. Soft, steady. The same lullaby she sang every night. Downstairs she could hear raised voices. Cring. Angry. Then silence. Then a single gunshot. Minji's silent scream tore through Kendra's heart. The little girl clawed at Kendra, trying to get to the door to her father, certain that history was repeating itself. No, baby, no, Kendra held her tighter. Your daddy's okay. Listen, do you hear him talking? He's okay. But Minji was beyond reason. She fought with surprising strength, and Kendra had to wrap her arms and legs around the child to keep her from hurting herself. Minji, listen to me. Your daddy is safe. I promise you he's safe. Finally, Minji collapsed against her, sobbing without sound, her small body racked with terror. Kendra held her and sang and prayed she was right. An hour later, Daeyoung knocked softly. Kendra. It's me. It's safe. She unlocked the door. He stood there, suit jacket gone, blood on his sleeve, not his own she hoped, but alive. Whole. Minji saw him and launched herself from Kendra's arms into his. He caught her, holding her so tightly Kendra worried he'd hurt her. But Minji clung back just as hard. Gwenchina, he murmured into her hair. It's okay. Appa yeoji seo. Daddy's here. Minji pulled back just enough to look at his face. Her mouth moved, forming words. And then, in a voice rusty from disuse, she whispered, Appa. Mabima. Daddy. Don't die. Daeyoung's entire body shuddered. I won't tell. I promise. I won't leave you. He looked over Minji's head at Kendra, and the gratitude in his eyes nearly broke her. Later, after Minji had finally fallen into exhausted sleep, Daeyoung found Kendra in the hallway. She spoke, Kendra said unnecessarily. Because of you. Because you kept her calm. She was terrified. She thought. Kendra's voice broke. She thought she was losing you like she lost her mother. I know. He pulled Kendra into his arms. I'm sorry you both had to experience that. What happened? A rival organization thought they could intimidate me by showing up at my home. They were wrong. The gunshot. Warning shot. No one was hurt. But they won't make that mistake again. Kendra pulled back to look at him. Is this our life now? Armed men and lockdowns and fear. I'm working on getting out. Transitioning the business to be completely legitimate. But it takes time, and until then. He cupped her face. Until then, I need you to trust that I will keep you both safe. I trust you. But Daeyoung, Minji can't live like this. She just started speaking again. Another scare like that could set her back months. I know. His jaw clenched. I'm ending this. Whatever it takes, I'm ending the parts of my business that put my family at risk. How long will that take? 6 months. Maybe a year. Can we survive that long? We have to. The weeks that followed were both beautiful and terrifying. Minji spoke more each day. Quiet sentences. Whispered observations. She told Kendra she liked her braids. She told her father she missed her mother. She'd asked if they could make tteokbokki again. Every word was a miracle. And every day Kendra fell deeper in love with both of them. Daeyoung was changing too. He came home earlier. Ate dinner with them every night. Read to Minji in Korean before bed. He'd started teaching Kendra more than simple phrases. Whole conversations, cultural context, family traditions. He'd also started touching her more. Casual brushes in the hallway. His hand on her lower back when they walked together. Kisses stolen in the kitchen when Minji was occupied. They hadn't slept together. Hadn't even discussed it. But the tension was building, and Kendra knew it was only a matter of time. The breaking point came on a Saturday evening. Mrs. Song had the night off. Minji was at a supervised playdate with the daughter of one of Daeyoung's trusted associates. The first time she'd been willing to leave the house since speaking again. Kendra and Daeyoung were alone. She was in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner when he appeared behind her, arms wrapping around her waist. Leave it, he murmured against her neck. I'll handle it tomorrow. You're not going to handle dishes. I might surprise you. Kendra laughed, leaning back against his chest. Daeyoung Kim doing dishes. That would be a sight. I can do many things you haven't seen yet. The suggestion in his voice made heat pool low in her belly. She turned in his arms. Is that so? His eyes had gone dark, intense. Kendra, I need you to know something. What? I'm in love with you. Not just falling. Fully, completely in love with you. And if you're not ready for that, if this is moving too fast, tell me now. Kendra reached up to frame his face. I love you too. I've been trying to keep things professional, but... He kissed her before she could finish. This kiss was different. Demanding. Consuming. His hands tangled in her braids and she wrapped her arms around his neck, pressing against him. Bedroom, he growled against her mouth. Yes. He lifted her and carried her upstairs to his room. A space she'd never entered, decorated in minimalist elegance with a massive bed and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He set her down gently, giving her one last chance to change her mind. Instead, Kendra pulled him down to her. Afterwards, lying tangled in his sheets, Kendra traced the tattoo on his chest, Korean characters she couldn't read. What does it say? She asked. Gajak. Family. His hand covered hers over his heart. I got it when Minji was born. Haewon had a matching one. Kendra stilled. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. No. It's okay. He brought her hand to his lips. Haewon is part of my past. Part of who I am. But you're my present. My future if you'll have me. I'll have you. He kissed her softly. I need to tell you something about the business. About what I'm doing to get out. Okay. Over the next hour, Dae-young explained his plan. How he was systematically divesting from illegal operations. How he was consolidating power to ensure a clean break wouldn't cause a power vacuum that hurt innocent people. How he was setting up legitimate businesses that would employ his people legally. It's complex, he admitted. And dangerous. There are people who benefit from the current system who won't want me to change it. Like the men who came to the house. Yes. They wanted to force me to maintain certain partnerships. I refused. Hence the gunshot. Hence the gunshot. He tucked a braid behind her ear. But I need you to understand, once I'm out we'll be safe. Truly safe. Minji can go to regular school. We can live like a normal family. If you want that. If you want a future with me. Kendra's heart expanded. I want that. But Dae-young, I need to know. What happens if someone finds out about us before you're out? What happens if your enemies decide I'm a weakness? His expression hardened. Then I show them what happens when people threaten what's mine. The possessiveness should have bothered her. Instead it made her feel safe. I can handle myself, she reminded him. I grew up fighting for everything I have. I'm not fragile. I know. But let me protect you anyway. She kissed him. Hey. But we protect each other. Deal. They fell asleep tangled together, and Kendra woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and Dae-young watching her with an expression so tender it made her chest ache. Good morning, she murmured. An-young, he replied, kissing her forehead. We should get up. Minji will be home soon. Do we tell her? About us. She already knows. I saw her watching us that night in my study. Kendra sat up. And she didn't say anything? She wrote me a note. If I loved you. I told her I did. She wrote back. Good. Kendra makes you smile. Tears pricked Kendra's eyes. She's incredible. She is. And she loves you. Which is why. He hesitated. When you're ready, when it feels right, I think she'd want to call you something more than just Kendra. What do you mean? Eomma. Mother. She's been without one for so long and you've filled that role without even trying. If you're comfortable with it. Kendra's throat closed. I would be honored. But shouldn't we wait for her to decide? We will. I just wanted you to know that when she does, I support it. More than support it, I want it. The moment came 2 weeks later. Kendra and Minji were baking cookies. A weekend tradition they'd started. Minji was carefully pressing shapes into dough when she suddenly looked up. Kendra. Yes, sweetheart. Can I ask you something? Always. Minji's small face grew serious. Do you love Appa? Kendra's heart raced, but she answered honestly. I do. Very much. Do you love me? More than anything. Minji nodded as if confirming something she'd suspected. Appa loves you too. And you make him happy. And me happy. You make me happy too. My first Eomma is in heaven, Minji said carefully as if she'd practiced this speech. I still love her. I talk to her picture every night. That's beautiful, baby. But you're here. And you take care of me and Appa. And you sing and cook and make the house feel warm. Minji's eyes filled with tears. Would it be okay if I called you Eomma too? Not instead of my first Eomma. But also. Kendra's vision blurred. Oh sweetheart. You can call me anything you want. Really? Really? I would be so honored to be your Eomma. Minji threw her arms around Kendra's waist. Eomma, she whispered. Pai Eomma. Kendra held her close, tears streaming down her face. My daughter. My beautiful, brave daughter. They stayed like that, holding each other until Dae-young's voice came from the doorway. What's happening here? Minji pulled back, wiping her eyes, and ran to her father. Appa, I asked Kendra if I could call her Eomma and she said yes. Dae-young looked over his daughter's head at Kendra, his eyes bright with emotion. She did. I did, Kendra confirmed, her voice thick. He gathered both of them into his arms. Then we're officially a family. We're officially a family, Kendra agreed. And Minji, sandwiched between the two people she loved most, smiled wider than Kendra had ever seen. That evening, after Minji was asleep, Kendra found Dae-young in his study. Your daughter just called me Eomma, she said softly, closing the door behind her. He looked up from his papers, setting down his pen. I heard. And? Kendra's heart raced, suddenly needing his approval, his confirmation that this was real. Dae-young stood, moving around the desk with that predatory grace. He pulled her into his arms, his hands framing her face. "And," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "you're her mother. You're my partner. You're the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with." He dropped to one knee. Kendra's breath stopped. "I don't have a ring yet," he said. "I wanted to wait to do this properly. But Kendra Washington, will you marry me? Will you be Minji's Eomma and my wife? Will you let me love you for the rest of our lives?" Kendra dropped to her knees in front of him, cupping his face. "Yes. Yes to all of it." He kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. When they broke apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. "I need to finish getting out of the business," he said. "I need to make sure we're completely safe before we make this official." "How long?" 3 months. Maybe 4. And then I'm done. Completely legitimate. And we can get married and Minji can have a normal childhood and you can have the life you deserve." "I already have the life I deserve," Kendra corrected. "I have you and Minji. Everything else is just details." "I love you. I love you too." The threat emerges. The first warning came through Mrs. Song. Kendra was helping Minji with homework, English vocabulary words, when the estate manager appeared in the doorway, her face ashen. "Miss Washington, Mr. Kim needs to see you immediately." "Minji should stay with me." Kendra's stomach dropped. She'd learned to read Mrs. Song's expressions and this one screamed danger. "Okay." She kissed Minji's forehead. "Jamkinman, sweetheart. I'll be right back." "Eomma." Minji's voice was small, uncertain. "I'm just going to talk to Appa. Mrs. Song will stay with you." In Dae-young's office she found him with 3 men she'd seen before, his most trusted associates. Jae-sung, his second-in-command. Min-ho, head of security. And Adrian, the only woman in his inner circle who handled intelligence. All of them looked grim. "Kendra." Dae-young stood immediately. "Sit down." "What's wrong?" He gestured to Adrian, who pulled up photos on a tablet. Kendra felt the blood drain from her face. The photos showed her. At the grocery store. At Nana Jean's apartment. In the garden with Minji. Dozens of images taken over weeks from angles that suggested professional surveillance. "Who?" "Park Jin-ho," Dae-young said, his voice laced with barely controlled fury. "One of my former partners. I cut ties with him 6 months ago when I started transitioning out of certain operations. He's not happy about it. And he's targeting me? He's gathering intelligence. Trying to understand what you mean to me, how you fit into my organization." Adrienne's voice was professionally neutral, but her eyes were sympathetic. "The problem is now he knows about Minji. He knows she calls you Eomma." Kendra's hands clenched. "He's going to use us as leverage." "He's going to try," Dae-young corrected. "But I won't let that happen." "What's the plan?" The men exchanged glances. Jae-sung spoke first. "Boss, with respect, Miss Washington doesn't need to be in this meeting. We can handle." "Kendra stays," Dae-young interrupted. "She's family. She has a right to know what we're facing and how we plan to protect her." Kendra felt a surge of gratitude and fear in equal measure. Park Jin-ho runs gambling and loan sharking operations throughout Portland and Seattle, Min-ho explained, pulling up a map. "He's got connections with the Yakuza and several Chinese triads. When Mr. Kim started divesting, Park lost significant income streams." "How much income?" Kendra asked. "Approximately 40% of his revenue." Kendra's eyes widened. "That's a declaration of war in his eyes," Adrian finished. "He spent the last 6 months consolidating power, making alliances, preparing to either force Mr. Kim back into partnership or destroy him completely. And now he knows about me and Minji." "Tao he knows," Dae-young confirmed. His jaw clenched. "Which is why I'm moving up the timeline. I'm getting out completely. Immediately." "Boss, that's not safe," Jae-sung protested. "If you withdraw too fast you create a power vacuum. People will get hurt. People I care about are already at risk. That takes priority." "What about everyone who depends on you?" Kendra asked quietly. "The workers, the families, the people who've been loyal to you? What happens to them if you withdraw overnight?" Dae-young looked at her, surprise and pain warring in his expression. You're asking me to choose between your safety and theirs. I'm asking you to be smart about this. You've been planning a clean exit for months. Don't let Park Jin-ho force you into a messy one that hurts innocent people. Kendra. I'm not saying ignore the threat. I'm saying we handle it strategically. He turned to Adrian. What does Park Jin-ho want? Really want? Money. Power. Respect. Adrian studied Kendra with new interest. He feels humiliated by Mr. Kim's withdrawal. In our world, humiliation has to be answered. So give him something that lets him save face while we neutralize the actual threat. Like what? Minho asked skeptically. Kendra's mind raced. She'd grown up in neighborhoods where disputes were settled through negotiation as often as violence. Where pride mattered as much as practical outcomes. What if you offered him a different partnership? She suggested. Not illegal operations but legitimate business opportunities. Import, export is lucrative, right? What if you gave him access to some of those connections, framed it as evolution rather than abandonment? Jae-sung shook his head. He'd never accept. He'd see it as a consolation prize. Not if you make it his idea, Kendra countered. What if you leak information suggesting you're vulnerable right now? That you're distracted by personal matters, she gestured to herself. And that creates an opening for negotiation. He approaches you thinking he has leverage, you offer the legitimate partnership as a compromise and everyone walks away with something. Silence. Then Adrian started laughing. That's actually brilliant. You're suggesting we use his perception of you as weakness to create a negotiation opportunity. Exactly. He thinks I'm leverage. We let him think that. We let him think Dae-young is so distracted by love that he's willing to make deals to protect his new family. Park gets to feel like he won, gets a profitable legitimate partnership, and we neutralize the threat without violence. Dae-young was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. You're proposing you become bait. I'm proposing we use his assumptions against him. Absolutely not. I won't risk you. You're already risking me by doing nothing. At least this way we control the narrative. She has a point, boss, Adrian said quietly. And it's a smart play. Better than a war that could last months and cost lives. No. Dae-young's voice was flat. Final. I won't use the woman I love as bait no matter how strategic it is. Kendra stood, moving around the desk to face him. Then let me help another way. Teach me what I need to know. Your world, your business, the players involved. Stop protecting me from information and start preparing me to be an asset. Kendra. I'm already a target. You said it yourself. Park Jin-ho knows about me. The only question is whether I'm a liability or an asset. Let me be an asset. Minho cleared his throat. Boss, she's right. If Miss Washington understands the landscape, she can make better decisions if something happens. When something happens, Kendra corrected. Because we all know Park won't just wait. He'll make a move. And when he does, I need to know how to protect myself and Minji. Dae-young looked torn. Finally he nodded. Hey, you want to learn? We teach you. But that doesn't mean I'm using you as bait. Fair enough. We'll find another solution. Together. Over the next 2 weeks, Kendra received an education in Dae-young's world. Adrian taught her about the key players. Rival organizations, neutral parties, law enforcement contacts. She learned to recognize faces, understand allegiances, identify threats. Minho taught her security protocols. Safe routes, panic procedures, how to identify surveillance. He also taught her basic self-defense, though he was surprised to discover she already knew how to fight. I grew up in East Portland, she reminded him after taking him down during a practice session. I've been defending myself since I was 12. Jae-sung taught her about the business itself. Supply chains, profit margins, the difference between legitimate operations and illegal ones. He explained how Dae-young was systematically transitioning, which partnerships could be salvaged, which had to be severed completely. And Dae-young taught her Korean. Not just vocabulary but context. Business terms. Respectful phrases. The subtle ways language conveyed power and deference. Sajangnam, he said one evening as they practiced. That's how subordinates address me. Means president, boss. When you hear it, you know the speaker acknowledges my authority. And when you speak to equals? I use their name with SSI as an honorific. Park Jin-ho Sai, for example. What about when you're threatening someone? His eyes glinted. No honorific. Just the name. Or sometimes just silence. Silence can be the most threatening thing of all. Kendra absorbed it all, understanding that she was learning a language of power and danger as much as simple communication. At night, after Minji was asleep, she and Daeyoung would debrief. Process the information. Plan next steps. And inevitably, talking would lead to touching, which would lead to making love with an intensity that felt like they were trying to memorize each other's bodies before something tore them apart. "I'm scared," Kendra admitted one night, lying in his arms. "Not of Park Jin-ho. Of losing this. Losing you and Minji. You won't lose us. You can't promise that." He turned her to face him. "Yes, I can. Because I will do whatever it takes, legal or otherwise, to keep my family safe. Park wants a war? He'll get one. But he'll lose. What if the cost is too high? What if keeping us safe means becoming someone you don't want to be anymore?" Daeyoung was quiet for a long moment. "When Haewon died, I became someone I didn't recognize. Controlled. I buried everything that made me human because feeling anything hurt too much. You brought me back. You and Minji. You made me remember that life is more than survival and strategy. It's love. Connection. Joy." He kissed her softly. "So no, the cost won't be too high. Because protecting you is protecting who I want to be. You're not a complication in my life, Kendra. You're the whole point of it." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I love you. Sarangi," he whispered back. "I love you." The confrontation. The move came on a Wednesday afternoon. Kendra was at Nana Jean's apartment, her first visit in weeks. Daeyoung had insisted on sending Minho and 2 other security personnel, but Kendra had convinced him to keep them discreet. She didn't want to scare her grandmother. Nana Jean was doing well. The dialysis treatments Kendra could now afford were keeping her stable. They were having tea in the small living room when Nana Jean said, "Tell me about him." "About who?" "The man you're in love with. Don't think I haven't noticed. You're different, Mika. Softer. Happier. Scared." Kendra set down her cup. "It's complicated. Love usually is. He's not what I expected. He's powerful and dangerous, and he's in a world I don't fully understand. But he loves his daughter with everything he has. And he loves me the same way. Does he treat you well?" "He treats me like I'm precious." "Then that's all that matters." Nana Jean reached for her hand. "Your mama would have liked seeing you happy. She always said you had too much heart to protect it properly. Looks like you finally found someone worth the risk." Kendra's phone buzzed. A text from Minho. "Suspicious vehicle. Black sedan. Been circling the block." Her stomach dropped. "Nana, I need you to do something for me," Kendra said calmly, though her heart was racing. "I need you to go into your bedroom and stay there until I tell you it's safe." "Mika, what's?" "Please. Trust me." Nana Jean must have heard something in her voice because she stood immediately. "You call me when it's over." "I will." The moment her grandmother was safely in the bedroom, Kendra called Daeyoung. He answered on the first ring. "What's wrong?" Minho spotted surveillance. "I think Park's making his move. Get out of there. Right now." "Minho will." The apartment door burst open. 3 men entered, guns drawn. Behind them, an older Korean man in an expensive suit smiled coldly. "Miss Washington," Park Jin-ho said in accented English. "How convenient. We've been looking for an opportunity to chat." Kendra's hand moved to her phone, but one of the men grabbed it, crushing it under his boot. "Hang up," Park ordered, gesturing to the phone she still held to her ear. She could hear Daeyoung shouting her name, could hear him mobilizing his people. "It's okay," she said clearly, hoping he could hear. "I'm at Nana's apartment." 3 men and Park Jin-ho. The man closest to her slapped the phone away. The call disconnected. Park moved closer, studying her with cold interest. "You're braver than I expected. Or more foolish. I haven't decided which. What do you want?" "What I want is for Daeyoung Kim to remember his obligations. His partnership with me was mutually beneficial. His withdrawal has cost me significantly. So this is about money. This is about respect." Park's voice hardened. "In this world, reputation is everything. When Kim severed our partnership, he sent a message that I was disposable. That message has consequences. And kidnapping me is supposed to what? Prove you're powerful?" Kidnapping you is supposed to remind Kim that he's not invulnerable, that the people he loves can be reached. Kendra's mind raced. She needed to keep him talking. Daeyoung would come, she knew he would, but she needed to buy time. You're making a mistake, she said. Park laughed. Am I? You think taking me makes you powerful. But all it does is prove you're desperate. If you were truly powerful, you wouldn't need hostages. You'd negotiate like an equal. His expression darkened. Careful, Miss Washington. I'm just stating facts. You lost a partnership because you're in a dying industry. Illegal operations are getting riskier, more scrutinized. Daeyoung saw that and adapted. You're angry because you didn't adapt fast enough. You know nothing about this world. I know enough. I know that the future isn't in gambling and loan sharking. It's in legitimate business that's less risky and more profitable long-term. Daeyoung offered you a path forward, and you rejected it because your pride was hurt. He offered me scraps. He offered you evolution. And you chose extinction instead. Park's hand cracked across her face. Kendra's head snapped to the side, pain exploding across her cheek. She tasted blood. But she didn't show fear. Instead she straightened, met his eyes and smiled. You just proved my point, she said quietly. Only weak men hit women. For a moment she thought he might shoot her. Then gunfire erupted from outside the apartment. Park's men spun toward the door. One went down immediately, blood blooming across his chest. The other dove for cover. And then Daeyoung was there, moving with lethal precision. He wasn't alone. Jae-sung and Minho flanked him, along with half a dozen other men, all armed, all deadly. But Daeyoung's eyes found Kendra first. She saw relief flash across his face, followed immediately by rage when he saw the blood on her lip. You touched her, he said to Park, his voice deadly calm. Park grabbed Kendra, pulling her in front of him as a shield, pressing a gun to her temple. One more step and she dies, Park threatened. Daeyoung stopped. His gun remained trained on Park, but his eyes were on Kendra. Are you okay? He asked in English. I'm fine, she replied. Then in Korean, Gwenchina yogi iseo. It's okay, I'm here. She saw surprise flicker in Park's eyes. He hadn't expected her to speak Korean. You taught her your language, Park said with disgust. You let her into your world. Into your business. You've made her just like Haewon. Kendra is nothing like Haewon, Daeyoung replied coldly. Haewon was gentle. Kind. She wanted me out of this life because she couldn't bear the violence. Kendra knows exactly what I am, what this world is, and she chose to stand with me anyway. That makes her infinitely more dangerous than Haewon ever was. Then killing her sends an even stronger message. Killing her, Daeyoung's voice dropped to a lethal whisper, ensures that I will spend every resource I have destroying you. Not your business. Not your reputation. I will take apart everything you've built, everyone you've ever cared about, until there's nothing left but your regret. And then when you're broken and alone, I will kill you slowly. The absolute conviction in his voice made even Kendra shiver. Park's gun hand trembled slightly. Or, Kendra said quietly, you could let me go and we could talk like civilized people. There's nothing to talk about. Really? Because I think there is. Kendra kept her voice steady despite the gun at her head. You want respect and profit. Daeyoung wants out of illegal operations and peace for his family. Those goals aren't mutually exclusive. He already rejected my partnership. He rejected the illegal parts. But his legitimate import-export business is expanding. He has connections throughout Asia that could benefit someone with your distribution network. Legal distribution. She felt Park's attention shift slightly. What are you proposing? I'm proposing you stop pointing a gun at me, sit down like adults, and negotiate a partnership that benefits both of you without either of you having to compromise your goals. Why would I trust anything Kim offers now? Because the alternative is war. And war is expensive, dangerous, unpredictable. Even if you win, you lose. Whereas a business partnership, that's just profit. Park was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly he lowered the gun. Daeyoung moved immediately, pulling Kendra behind him, his own gun now pressed to Park's forehead. Give me one reason not to kill you right now, Daeyoung growled. Because Kendra's right, Park said, showing no fear. War is expensive. And I'm a businessman first. If you're serious about a legitimate partnership, I'm willing to listen. Dae-young's finger tightened on the trigger. Yobo, Kendra said softly, using the Korean term of endearment for a spouse. Honey. Let's hear him out. He didn't lower the gun. He hit you. I know. And he'll apologize for that if he wants to keep breathing. Park's jaw clenched. Then, I apologize. I was frustrated. It won't happen again. It better not, Dae-young said coldly. But he lowered the gun. You have 5 minutes to convince me not to end this right now. 2 hours later, Kendra sat in Nana Jean's kitchen with an ice pack on her face while Dae-young, Park, and their respective advisors negotiated in the living room. Nana Jean puttered around making tea, pointedly ignoring the armed men throughout her apartment. So, her grandmother said conversationally, that's the man you're in love with. Yes, Nana. He seems intense. That's one word for it. He also looks at you like you hung the moon. Kendra smiled despite the pain in her face. He's pretty wonderful when he's not negotiating with criminals. And he treats you well? Aside from the occasional gunfight in my living room. He treats me like I'm the most important thing in his world. Nana Jean patted her hand. Then I suppose I can forgive the property damage. In the living room, Adrian emerged and approached Kendra. They've reached an agreement. Park gets access to Mr. Kim's Asian import connections for legitimate electronics and luxury goods. 70-30 split in Mr. Kim's favor. In exchange, Park completely withdraws any claims on the illegal operations and agrees to a non-aggression pact. That's actually a good deal. It's a brilliant deal. You brokered peace and turned an enemy into a profitable partner. Adrian smiled slightly. Jae-sung is already calling it the Washington negotiation. Kendra groaned. Please don't. Too late. You're officially part of the organization now. Whether you wanted to be or not. Dae-young appeared in the doorway and Adrian quietly excused herself. He knelt in front of Kendra, gently removing the ice pack to examine her face. The bruise was already forming, dark and ugly against her brown skin. I'm going to kill him, Dae-young said quietly. No, you're not. We just negotiated peace. He hit you, Kendra. And I handled it. I kept him talking until you arrived, then I negotiated a solution that protects everyone. I'm fine. You could have died. But I didn't. Because you taught me well. Because your team was watching. Because we were prepared. She cupped his face. This is what you were afraid of, wasn't it? That loving me would put me in danger and you wouldn't be able to protect me. Yes. And I was in danger. And you did protect me. But more importantly, I protected myself. I'm not a liability, Dae-young. I'm your partner. He kissed her forehead, her bruised cheek, her lips. You're incredible. Terrifying and incredible. I learned from the best. We're leaving. Right now. I'm taking you and Nana Jean somewhere safe while I finalize everything with Park. Nana can't leave her dialysis treatments. Then I'm moving the treatments to our house. I'm not leaving her vulnerable. Nana Jean's voice came from behind them. I can hear you, you know. And I'm not going anywhere unless Mika wants me there. I want you there, Kendra said immediately. I want you safe. And I want you to know Minji. Your great-granddaughter. Nana Jean's eyes widened. Great-granddaughter. It's complicated. But she calls me Eomma and Dae-young and I are engaged, which makes you her great-grandmother if you'll have her. Tears filled Nana Jean's eyes. A great-grandbaby. Oh, Mika. So you'll come. Try and stop me. Resolution and family formation. 3 months later, Kendra stood in the garden of the Kim estate, watching Nana Jean teach Minji how to braid flower stems together. The transformation in all their lives had been remarkable. Park Jin-ho had honored his agreement. The partnership was proving profitable for both parties. And true to his word, Dae-young had completed his exit from all illegal operations. The house felt different now. Lighter. There was still security. There always would be, given Dae-young's past, but it was protective rather than defensive. They weren't hiding. They were just being careful. Minji was thriving. She spoke constantly now, asking endless questions, singing songs Kendra taught her, reading books in both Korean and English. She'd started regular school and made friends. She still missed her first mother, would always miss her, but she'd made space in her heart for Kendra too. And Nana Jean had become the grandmother Minji had never known. She'd moved into one of the guest suites, and the house had become a real home with her presence. Baking smells and laughter and the sound of 3 generations of women creating joy together. Yobo, Daeung's voice came from behind her, arms wrapping around her waist. You're supposed to be getting ready. I am ready. You're wearing jeans. Because we're getting married in the garden and I refuse to walk through grass in heels. He laughed, the sound still surprising and wonderful. Mrs. Song will be scandalized. Mrs. Song will survive. They'd decided on a small ceremony. Just family and Daeung's inner circle. The people who'd become family through loyalty and time. Nothing ostentatious. Nothing that drew unwanted attention. Just love, witnessed and celebrated. Are you nervous? Daeung asked. Not even a little. You. Terrified. Kendra turned in his arms. Of what? That I'll wake up and this will have been a dream. That I don't deserve this much happiness after everything I've done. You deserve every bit of happiness you're willing to claim. And this isn't a dream. I'm real, Minji's real, this life we're building is real. He kissed her softly. I love you. Sarangi, she replied. Your Korean is getting very good. I have an excellent teacher. A small voice interrupted. Eomma. Nana says it's time. Minji ran toward them, flower crown slightly crooked, face bright with excitement. Kendra's heart swelled. This child, her child, was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. Hey baby. Let's go get married. The ceremony was simple and perfect. Jae-sung officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for this occasion. Adrian stood as Kendra's witness, having become an unexpected friend over the past months. Minho served as Daeung's best man, looking uncomfortable in a suit but honored to be asked. And Minji stood between them, holding both their hands, a visual representation of the family they'd become. When it came time for vows, Daeung spoke first. Kendra, when you walked into my life I was surviving, not living. You taught me the difference. You gave me back my daughter by showing me how to reach her. You gave me back myself by loving me despite my past. You are fierce and wise and braver than anyone I've ever known. I promise to protect you, honor you and love you for the rest of my life. You are my heart. My home. My family. Kendra's voice was thick with emotion when she replied. Daeung, you've given me more than I ever thought possible. A daughter to love. A partner who sees me as an equal. A family that chose me as much as I chose them. You've shown me that love isn't about being saved. It's about standing together and being strong enough to be vulnerable. I promise to be your partner in all things, to love Minji as fiercely as you do, and to build a life with you that honors both where we've been and where we're going. Frangie. Forever. When Jae-sung pronounced them married, Daeung pulled her into a kiss that was both chaste and deeply intimate. A promise for their future. Minji squealed with delight, jumping up and down. You're married. You're really married. We're really married, Kendra confirmed, scooping her daughter into her arms. Which means you're officially stuck with me forever. Good. Minji wrapped her arms around Kendra's neck. I love you, Eomma. I love you too, baby. So much. Daeung embraced them both and for a moment they just stood there. A family, complete and whole. 6 months later. Kendra woke to sunlight streaming through the bedroom windows and small fingers poking her shoulder. Eomma, Minji whispered. Are you awake? I am now, Kendra murmured, pulling her daughter into bed between herself and Daeung. What's wrong, baby? Nothing's wrong. I just wanted to tell you something. Daeung stirred, one arm automatically reaching out to encompass both his girls. Tell us what, Tao? Minji looked between them, her expression serious. I had a dream about my first Eomma last night. Kendra's chest tightened. Was it a good dream or a sad dream? Good. She was in a beautiful garden and she looked happy. And she told me. Minji's eyes filled with tears. She told me she was glad I have you now. That she picked you special for me and Appa. Kendra's vision blurred. Oh, sweetheart. She said loving you doesn't mean forgetting her. It means making my heart bigger so there's room for both. Daeung pulled them both closer, his own eyes wet. Your first Eomma was very wise. I know. And she said one more thing. What's that? Kendra asked. She said the baby you're growing will have her smile. Kendra froze. Daeung's hand moved to her stomach, pressing gently against the small bump she'd been hiding beneath loose clothing. You're pregnant, he whispered. I was going to tell you today. I wanted to wait until I was sure until... He kissed her deep and thorough and full of joy. When he pulled back he was grinning. We're having a baby. We're having a baby, Kendra confirmed. Minji bounced excitedly. I'm going to be a big sister. The best big sister, Kendra agreed. Daeyoung's hand remained on her stomach, his expression full of wonder. Another child. Another chance to do this right. You did it right the first time. Minji is perfect. Minji is perfect because she has you as her mother. Both my mothers, Minji corrected. My first Eomma in heaven and my Eomma here. I'm very lucky. We're all lucky, Kendra said, gathering her family close. Later that morning, after Minji had run off to tell Nana Jean the news, Daeyoung found Kendra in the garden. She was sitting on the bench they'd been married in front of, one hand on her stomach, looking peaceful and beautiful. I can't believe we're doing this again, he said, sitting beside her. Scared. Terrified. Overjoyed. All of it. Me too. He took her hand, threading their fingers together. Thank you. For what? For giving me this life. For not giving up on Minji when she was lost. For not giving up on me when I tried to push you away. For being brave enough to love us despite the risks. It wasn't bravery. It was inevitability. I was always going to love you. From the moment I saw you with Minji, saw how much you loved her even when you didn't know how to show it, I was gone. I didn't deserve you then. You deserve me now. And you'll deserve me tomorrow. Stop living in the past and be here with me in the present. He kissed her temple. I'm here. I'm exactly where I want to be. They sat in comfortable silence watching Minji play with Nana Jean, listening to the sound of laughter and life. Do you ever think about that first day? Kendra asked. When you hired me? Every day. I remember thinking you were too honest, too direct, too willing to call me out. And now? Now I realize that's exactly what I needed. What we both needed. Someone who refused to let us hide in our grief. Your daughter just called me Eomma, Kendra said softly, echoing the moment that had changed everything. Daeyoung pulled her close. And, he prompted, his voice full of love. And it's the most beautiful word I've ever heard. Say it in Korean. Eomma. No. Say, I'm your wife. I'm Minji's mother. I'm carrying your child. And I love you with everything I am. Kendra smiled, switching to Korean. Nanun dangshinui aniya. Nanun minjiui yomoyo. Nanun dangshinui ariel imshin hesio. Juligo nanun dangshinul jianbu saranghio. Perfect, he whispered. You're perfect. We're perfect. Together. And in the garden of their home, the place where a grieving widower had hired a desperate housekeeper, where a silent child had found her voice, where enemies had become allies and strangers had become family, Daeyoung and Kendra Kim held each other close and watched their daughter play. They'd built something impossible, a life born from loss that had transformed into joy. A mafia boss who'd learned to love again. A woman who'd risked everything for a child who wasn't hers. And a little girl who'd found the courage to speak when the right person finally listened. Your daughter just called me Eomma, Kendra had whispered that first time, uncertain and hopeful. And Daeyoung had replied, his heart already knowing what his mind was still afraid to acknowledge. And they'd become a family. Not through blood but through choice. Not despite their broken pieces but because of them. Because sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones we build ourselves, one brave choice at a time. Epilogue 2 years later. The Kim Gallery of Contemporary Asian Art opened on a sunny October morning. Kendra stood in the center of the main exhibition space, bouncing baby Haejun on her hip while trying to supervise the final preparations. Eomma, does this look straight? Minji called from across the gallery, pointing to a painting she was helping hang. A little to the left, baby. At 9 years old, Minji had appointed herself assistant curator. She took the job very seriously. Nana Jean appeared with a tray of refreshments. Where do you want these for the opening reception? On the table by the entrance. Thank you, Nana. My great-grandbabies are running this whole show, Nana Jean said proudly. Your grandfather would have been so proud. Haejun gurgled happily, grabbing for Kendra's braids. He's going to pull them all out one of these days, Adrian observed, appearing with a clipboard. We're ready. The press is outside. The guests are arriving. Your husband is charming a potential investor. Everything is perfect. Define charming, Kendra said suspiciously. He's using his intimidating face while discussing profit margins. It's very effective. Kendra laughed. Even completely legitimate, Daeyoung still carried an aura of danger that made people take him very seriously. The gallery had been his dream, a way to honor Haewon's love of art while creating something beautiful and legal. They showcased emerging Asian and Asian American artists, with a portion of proceeds going to arts education in underserved communities. It was profitable, meaningful, and completely above board. Everything Daeyoung had promised when he'd walked away from his old life. Yobo. His voice came from behind her. We're about to open the doors. Kendra turned and her breath still caught. He wore a perfectly tailored navy suit, his hair slightly longer than the severe style he'd maintained before. He looked successful, sophisticated, and happy. So happy. Ready? He asked, taking Haejun from her arms and settling their son against his shoulder. Are you? I've faced down rival organizations and hostile takeovers. I think I can handle an art gallery opening. This is scarier. This is your dream. His expression softened. No. My dream is already here. This gallery is just a building. You Minji Haejun Nanajin, you're the dream. Minji appeared, grabbing both their hands. Come on. The doors are opening. They moved to the entrance as a family. Kendra and Daeyoung hands joined. Minji between them, bouncing with excitement. Haejun content against his father's chest. And Nana Jean beside them, one hand on Minji's shoulder. As the first guests entered, Kendra caught sight of their reflection in the gallery's glass doors. A family. Not the family she'd imagined when she'd taken a job as a housekeeper to pay for her grandmother's medical bills. But the family she'd chosen. The family she'd fought for. The family she'd built one brave moment at a time. Daeyoung squeezed her hand. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about how far we've come. How different our lives look now. Regrets. Not one. Sarangi, he whispered. Sarangi, she whispered back. And as they greeted their guests and celebrated this new chapter, Kendra reflected on the truth she'd learned through all of this. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about finding someone perfect. They're about finding someone broken and building something beautiful together. They're about showing up when it's hard and staying when it's scary. They're about a little girl whispering Eomma for the first time. And a man brave enough to say, and everything that came after. Years later, when people asked Kendra Kim how she'd built such an extraordinary life, she always told them the same story. She'd risked her job to help a silent child. She'd fallen in love with a dangerous man trying to be good. She'd walked into a world of shadows and refused to let the darkness win. But the real truth, the one she kept close to her heart, was simpler than that. Love had always been there waiting. In a little girl who needed someone to sit with her silence. In a widower who'd forgotten how to live beyond survival. In a choice made every single day, to stay, to fight, to build something beautiful from broken pieces. Minji grew up bilingual, brilliant, and brave, studying art history in college and calling home every Sunday without fail. She kept her first mother's photograph on her dresser and Kendra's number on speed dial, loving both women with a heart big enough to hold them. Haejun became his father's shadow, learning both business and compassion in equal measure. Proof that the next generation could be better than the last. And Daeyoung and Kendra? They built an empire, not of power and fear, but of art and community and love that transformed everyone it touched. On their 20th wedding anniversary, sitting in the garden where they'd married, watching their grandchildren play, Kendra whispered the words that had started it all. Your daughter just called me Eomma. Daeyoung smiled, pulling her close, and gave the same answer he'd given all those years ago. The answer that had changed everything. And I'd do it all again. Every scary moment. Every hard choice. Every single day. So would I, he murmured. Sarangi, my love. Forever. Sarangi, Kendra whispered back. As some families are born. But the best ones, the ones that last, those are chosen. One brave word at a time. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button and let me know which moment made you cry. Was it when Minji first whispered, Eomma? Or when Daeyoung promised to protect his family no matter the cost? Drop a comment below telling me, what would you have done in Kendra's position? Would you have stayed when you discovered the truth about Daeyoung's world? Or would fear have sent you running? And here's the real question. Do you believe in second chances at love? Do you think broken families can be made whole again? Share your thoughts. I read every single comment and your stories inspire me. Subscribe and turn on notifications because next week, I'm bringing you another emotional journey you won't want to miss. We're diving into the story of a Korean CEO who discovers his assistant is actually an undercover agent sent to take him down. But neither of them expected to fall in love. Share this video with someone who believes in the power of chosen family. Tag them and say, "This reminded me of us." Remember, the strongest families aren't always born. Sometimes they're built by people brave enough to love when it's hardest. Until next time, keep choosing love. Keep choosing courage. Keep building your family one brave moment at a time. I'll see you in the next story.